Giants fans, welcome back to Giants Latest. It is officially football season. I know the season didn't really start yet, okay? We're not on Sundays, the weather's cool watching games or at MetLife Stadium, but we're this close. We've made it through the part of the year where there's no more football and there's nothing to talk about because training camp starts this week. And that is the beginning of football season in my mind because we've got training camp for 2 weeks that immediately goes into preseason and we're finally starting to watch some football. And I think for Giants fans, preseason is going to be a different level of exciting this year because we have a quarterback that we want to watch. We're going to see Jackson Dart live in the flesh, a rookie quarterback that the Giants went all in and traded in for and decided that this is going to be our franchise guy. So I'm super excited about that. We're going to start with offense today, and I want to just kind of give you guys a little bit of an update of what Giants latest is going to look like here. So today and tomorrow, we're talking about players to watch at training camp, and then training camp starts on Wednesday. I will be at every single weekday practice, and then I'm going to rush home and I'm going to record a Giants latest episode so I can fill you in on everything that I saw with my own two eyes at practice. So that is going to be this week and next week while training camp continues on. And then from then on, it's going to be all about preseason, about players to watch in preseason, hopefully injury updates, and hopefully they're good injury updates and things like that. So we're in it, guys. The drought is over. I am so excited. I'm so happy to get back to football. I've been joking with my friends that every year I'm so excited. And by week 3, I'm like, let's go back to the summer. Not because of the weather, not because of any other reason other than the fact that I want to go back to the delusions that I had of being excited about this football season. And I hope that this year it's not like that. I really hope that. I'm maintaining my optimism while I can, but it's going to be something. It's going to be a season. So today I want to go ahead and talk about the players that I think are going to be fun to watch on the offensive side of the ball. And then tomorrow we're going to talk about the defense. So when it comes to offense, I don't really think that there are major competitions for starting positions. I think when you look from the top down, let's start with the offensive line. I think the only real battle, if you will, for a starting role is going to be the right guard position. It's going to be between Evan Neal and Greg Van Roten. And I think where we're all at right now is we feel like it's going to be Greg Van Roten. And if a miracle happens and Evan Neal remembers what it's like to be a good football player and be a good guard, then I hope that we see that because that would be really fun. But in the meantime, I really think it's GVR's position to lose. And I think he's probably going to end up winning it, but you never know. Let's move along to the running backs because I also feel the same way here is that there's not really a ton of competition. When it comes to something like camp where there's not really a focus on running the ball specifically, it's like the summer where it's more of a passing camp. I do think it's going to be fun to just see a guy like Cam Scatterbo out on the field, see him get the ball in his hands, see that contact balance in person, see if he can really escape defenders when he has the ball in his hands at the next level. That's what I want to see from him. Tyrone Tracy, I'm excited to see him utilized more in the passing game. So I think that's going to be a big focus to watch if you are interested in the running backs. See what Tyrone Tracy looks like as a wide receiver. Does he really get a lot of play calls there this summer? Do we see that in preseason? Does he act more like a wide receiver than a running back? Is that something that, even though they talked about this offseason, are they really going to implement it? Because we've heard them talk about a lot of things. And when it comes to implementing it, they've either done it and it's not worked, or they've not done it and it kind of disappeared with the wind. So that's something that I'm really curious about, and I'm excited to see Tyrone Tracy back out on the field. He's a guy that a lot of us loved last year. The one thing he has to work on is ball security. Can't turn the ball over. You especially can't do it in the red zone. So he's not the only one. Devin Singletary has to work on that as well, but I kind of just feel like as a whole, we're going to see a better football team this year. And I think with that comes mistakes that they made last year that hopefully we're not going to see again this year. Hopefully. Like turning the ball over in bad situations, obviously interceptions, things like that, and just penalties. Like that's one thing that I really want to see. Now, that we're not really going to be able to witness during training camp. Yes, they have a ref there who calls flags and things like that, but ultimately until the season starts, we kind of just have to hope for the best, which unfortunately is life as a Giants fan over the last decade or so. I want to talk about the tight ends briefly because when I did my roster prediction, I did say that I think there's a chance that Fedoni makes it over Bellinger. I'm still kind of torn on that one, but I do think that those are going to be the two guys to focus on the most when it comes to the tight end position. I think Chris Manhertz is getting that starting role with Theo Johnson. I think we will see those two the most, but I think ultimately the competition is really between Fidone and Bellinger, and I do kind of feel like it could go any way at this point, but it will start with seeing what they look like in camp. Can they make plays with the ball in their hands? Are they running the right routes? Do they have the right technique? How do they look when it comes to their blocking? Things like that. But you know, when we talk about this, it really feels like on the defensive side of the ball, that's where more of the actual competition battles are than the offense. But with that being said, I want to round it out with the wide receivers here when it comes to the specific offensive side of the ball positions, because there is going to be a competition for wide receivers 5 and 6. I think, you know, there's a possibility that they could keep 7 wide receivers this year. That would be interesting. I do feel like Ihmir Smith-Marsette is going to be that 5th wide receiver because of special teams, but also he can be used as a wide receiver. And, you know, if the Giants decide they are going to utilize these players, that would be a great way to do it. And it's something that Ihmir Smith-Marsette talked about this offseason, that he's explosive when he gets the ball in his hands. We've seen that from a special teams perspective. Why don't we see it? Why don't we throw him a slant in the slot and see if he could take it to the house? Maybe he can't. Maybe he can. Why don't we try it? I don't know. Preseason and the summer is a great time for that. So I think Ihmir Smith-Marsette is probably going to have that number 5 spot locked up. When it comes to the 6th spot, this is going to be the most interesting because I really feel like I could probably name 4 or 5 different wide receivers who could have that spot. It could be Bryce Ford-Wheaton. It could be Dalen Cambry. It could be Juice Wells. It could be Jordan Bly. It could be Zach Pascal. The list goes on. So I think that is going to be the most open and the most competitive spot on offense to watch because there are so many options there, and it really feels like there's not a single player who's that much further ahead of anyone else. Zach Pascal had a good spring. He caught a couple touchdowns from Russell Wilson. Dalen Cambry also came out of nowhere and had a great end to the spring practices. Juice Wells knows Jackson Dart very well. I'm sure he's going to get a lot of reps with him with the 3s. Is that going to translate if he gets reps with the 1s? So I really feel like that number 6 wide receiver spot is wide open. I know there's a lot of people who love Bryce Ford-Wheaton. He has special teams capabilities. Will that help him get that spot? I don't know. I really don't. But I think it's going to be fun to watch. Obviously, watching the wide receivers as a whole is a really fun position group to watch. And, you know, we're probably not going to see a lot of Malik Neighbors because of the toe situation. And the other spots are pretty much safe. You know it's Wan'Dale Robinson. You know it's Darius Slayton. And it's very likely to be Jalen Hyatt. So outside of that, I think that competition for wide receiver 6 is going to be really fun. And I'm excited to see what these guys can bring to the table. So whether it's Russell Wilson or anyone else at the quarterback position throwing them the ball, I'm really excited to see them take advantage of it. Now, moving along to the quarterback competition. There is a quarterback competition. It's just not for the starter. There is, in my opinion, one reason and one reason only as to why we will see anyone other than Russ Wilson be the starter week 1, and that is because Russell Wilson got injured. Now, knock on wood, that is not the situation, and that does not happen. Knock on wood, okay? So Russell Wilson is the starter, but the way that Jackson Dart has been talked about inside and outside of the building leads me to believe that there is a possibility that at any point throughout the season, which starts now and ends January, 18th or whatever it is, that Jackson Dart could beat out Jameis Winston for the quarterback 2. Now, will it happen as soon as this summer in training camp and into preseason? I'm not so sure about that. But there's been a lot of reports that say that Jackson Dart is progressing well. He likes the plan. He's learning quickly. He's implementing some of the things that he's learned, and they're getting to see that on the field. Will it translate when Abdul Carter is running in his face? Will it translate if the offensive line breaks down and he's dealing with the pressure on a much faster level than what he dealt with in college? I don't know. We're going to find out soon enough. But I do think that that is a quarterback competition. I think ultimately that's going to be the only one that we're going to be looking at. Like I said, whether it's now or week 18. Russell Wilson is the starter. Now, depending on how things go throughout the season, you never know. But Russell Wilson is the starter, and I'm actually really excited to watch Jackson Dart in camp. I'm excited to see Jameis Winston. I think, obviously, he brings a different type of energy to camp, and I think to see that from the get-go is going to be really fun, but I also think it's going to be fun to see someone like Jackson Dart kind of just sling the ball around. We're going to see that competitive side of him. We're going to see his accuracy and all the things that were touted as to one of the reasons why he should have been a first round pick in the draft this year. I hope that starts to translate now during camp, and that's what I want to see. So let me know what players you guys are excited to see at camp this week, and stay tuned because tomorrow we are talking about defensive players to watch.